All right, welcome back to Daybreak using the hashtag Daybreak. And of course, some of you guys have been asking me on Twitter what's up with the traffic, but we'll be telling you more about that a little bit later on. Now, born in Karachi, Pakistan, brought up in Kitale, Kenya. My guest today is a model, a speaker, a writer, an entrepreneur. His name is Farhan Yusuf. Welcome to Daybreak.
Thank you.
First of all, let's begin with your story. Walk us through. So you're born in Karachi in Pakistan.
Yes.
How did you end up in Kitale?
Well, apparently fate brought me to Kitale, as my book states, adopted by fate.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened was that when my mom conceived me,
Mm-hmm.
she already had 5 more kids and she didn't want me out of poverty.
Mm-hmm.
So she decided to have an abortion. And unfortunately, by the time she went to the doctor was like, no, this is very late. So
fortunately this time.
Yeah, fortunately for me and fortunately for her at that time. So apparently what happened was that, the doctor said, you can't terminate the pregnancy, it's quite late. So when my grandmother came to know that, she was really annoyed at her. And she was like, you cannot just abort a child like that, it's a sin. So if you don't want the child, give it to me, I'll take care of the child and I'll see if anyone needs it.
So this is still in
Karachi,
Pakistan.
yes.
Okay, in Karachi.
And at the back of her mind, she had her brother who was back in Kitale, who never had a child, despite having 2 wives. So that's how I came into the world. And then, her brother, now my father, was notified that we have a child. And so if you would like to adopt a child, you're more than welcome. So that's how I came in.
So what about your biological father? Have you ever met him?
Yes, I have. Mm-hmm. I've met him severally, and I must confess, I used to be very uncomfortable when I used to meet him. But then now I have become so used to it that every time I bump into him, I just greet him like any other person. And we are cool. We're just there. Like, we don't have much to say to each other, but we do greet each other and just find out how you're keeping, and that's it.
So you come from Karachi, you land here in this family, new place. Had you ever been to Kenya before that? No.
I was only 6 months old when I came to Kitale. So Kitale is my hometown.
6 months. So you virtually grew up.
Yeah, I virtually grew up in Kitale. I did my primary, my secondary. Most of my life has been spent in Kitale. I worked for a few companies in Kitale, and then I finally moved back to Karachi because my family was situated there. When I speak about family, I talk about my kids and stuff. So, yeah.
So walk us a little bit through your journey. So you come 6 months, you start school.
Yes.
You get to class 7.
Yes.
What happens?
Well, it's never been an easy journey for me because apparently as a child, I was an adopted child. I was never accepted by the family. When I talk about family, I talk about not my parents. I talk about my uncles and aunties and maybe any other relative who exists in the family who doesn't want to accept me as the child of that family. So I did have a few relatives, I would not want to mention names, who were not so comfortable with my schooling. So what they did was they talked my father into not sending me to school, and that's how I dropped out when I was in class 7. I wouldn't want to go to school. I was just made feel that I'm not capable of doing anything. I do not have any confidence. I do not have any worth. So I always felt that, why? I mean, okay, why should I even go to school? Come on, it's fine. But so I dropped out in class 7. My mother would not buy that at that time, and so she actually hired me a private teacher who came home and tuitioned me up. And then after that, I registered as a private candidate, and I did my KCPE. Surprisingly, I passed.
What did you say?
I was not expecting it, basically, because even if the teacher would come home, I would be like, I was a thick-headed guy who just didn't want to even sit and study, like maths was a mental attack to me, I would not want to do it.
You and me both, my brother. You and me both, yeah.
Yeah, so basically, I wouldn't want to do that, but I was really surprised. Then I did my KCPE in 1998, and I passed. So I joined the high school in Kitale, which was the only option I had because I was not allowed to go out of Kitale. So I did my Form 1, Form 2, Form 3. I went to Manor House High School in Form 3 from Greenfields. Apparently it's under one management, but Greenfields was turned into a girls' school, so I had no other choice. So I had to go to Manor House High School. and that was a big challenge for me because I was doing the GCSE system, and then moving in Form 3 to KCSE was now a very long way for me. So what happened was that in Form 3 third term again, a conspiracy was played, and I had to drop out again from high school this time round.
So when you say conspiracy,
my father was not educated, yet he was a successful businessman in Kitale. So what people would tell him, like I said, I wouldn't want to mention names, would tell him, you're not educated. Education is not important. So why do you need to, bring this boy to school and to, spend your money and time? I mean, come on. You don't need education to be successful. Have him at the shop. I mean, that's the reason why you brought him here, which was not the reason why I came anyway. So at some point, my father was like, okay, I need your help and, and the business and stuff. So I had to drop out in Form 3 third term and go to the shop and be there with him. But, I realized that the minute the third term in school was finished, I was kicked out of the shop, not by my father, but the other people in the shop. And then it hit me that, no, this is not how it's supposed to be. Why is it that every time I'm made left school in the third term, and then suddenly when the third term is over, when it's holiday period, I'm kicked out? I mean, what's going on? So I actually sat down with my dad. I spoke to him and I said, look, I need to finish my high school, otherwise my career, my life is ruined. So fortunate enough, he understood that. I took my mom with me, went back to the school, spoke to the principal, and I told him, look, I need to get back to class. And he goes like, I'm sorry, but you've not even done your post mocks, so how are you going to do it? So I was like, I assure you I will pass. He was like, okay, fine, I'll put you in Form 4, but if you do not pass the first term, you're going to go back to Form 3. And that was now a challenge to me. That was my first challenge in life. And I made sure that I was reading day and night, consecutively, on the books. And fortunate enough, I finished my high school. I did get good grades in KCSE, and that's how the journey was when it came to high school.
Yeah. So the other thing is that now how did you get there from that to where now? I mean, in India, you've been on She magazine, and you're a model as well. You speak to kids. You've made something out of your life. So how does one get from dropping out twice to even just the fact that now you have your own family?
Right.
So it's also an achievement.
Yes.
So how do you get from where you were to where you are now?
Trust me, it was not an easy journey for me. It took a lot of self-counseling. One thing that I actually even keep telling people, even in my book, it's been mentioned, that you need to counsel yourself. You are your own best counselor after God.
Right.
Leave alone, going to counselors. Yes, they do a great job. I'm not saying they don't. I do counseling as well. But at the end of the day, you're expecting another fellow human being to get you out of a mess that you have created yourself. Why don't you just counsel yourself? I had a very tough time. Confidence was zero in me. Literally, I was mocked in high school. I was mocked in primary. I never had friends, basically, because one, I was not allowed to play outside like any other kids. Secondly, even in the family, people looked at me like some piece of toilet paper. Because if we would go to any gathering, for example, in a family event, it would be like, okay, so is this the child that you adopted? And I was not informed by my parents that I was adopted. So I would always be like, what the hell is adoption? What is it? Is it an abuse? Is somebody abusing me? I didn't know the definition of adoption. And then I, like you said, after Form 4, I sat back to myself and said, look, Farhan, you have two ways, okay? Either you sit back, pity yourself, and expect the world to be fair to you, which is not happening, or work on yourself, work on your confidence, work on your personality, which is important, because that is the first thing that people look at you as, that interaction, that figure that you have. So if you are able to work on your confidence and you're working on your personality, you are hitting on the ground. And that's what I did. I started talking to myself in the mirror, because I had no one to talk to at that time. I mean, okay, my parents were there, but having that age gap between parents and kids, you could not talk. I had lost a friend in high school, and she was like my godmother, and she was called Eva, and she's my neighbor. Until date, we're neighbors. They're family friends, and I am a family to them, and they're a family to me. So what happens is that, I lost her, and I was not expecting. That was the first close friend that I lost, a relative, a mother, say, a sister. So I was totally shocked, and that's how I started writing. And I remember the first day when I started writing was the very first day I lost her. So I had a lot of mixed emotions put on paper on the 9th of September 1999, precisely. That's when I started writing. So what happened was that I started building my confidence. I started talking to myself. And then I realized that I needed a platform. Before going for modeling, before going for motivational speaking, before teaching, I realized that I needed to meet people, I needed to interact, I needed to socialize. So I started building my social, connections and circle. And then I said the best thing that I could do was maybe do modeling, because I would be able to build a lot of confidence. It's not easy being on the ramp, talking to, like walking around. People think it's very easy, that you just go and walk on the ramp and you're out. It's not like that. It takes a lot of effort. So it took that effort. At the first time, I remember my first professional shoot, I was rejected. I was told, "You're too chubby, you're too fat."
Oh, wow.
And I was like, where am I fat from?
Yeah.
And they were like, "No, it's not that you're fat, but you're just chubby, and so you need to be a little bit more presentable." So I hit the gym. And I was back in Karachi. I hit the gym. I was like, no, this is not happening. And then, after 3 months, I got a transformation. I went back, I did a portfolio. And then that's how I started getting, a little bit of interaction with the fashion industry. Yeah. I am still having a long way to go in that. Yes.
So you wrote this book, Dropped to the World, Adopted by Fate. And you're very passionate about adoption. And maybe you can touch about that even as we, wind up as well.
Right.
But Drop to the World, Adopted by Fate, interesting title. But most families don't understand the impact adoption has to the family, the families, and to the one who's adopted.
Yes, there's a very big role that everyone plays in this. First of all, the parents that are giving you out, they need to realize that once they've given you out, that's it, period. Okay,
they can't come back.
They can't come back. And one mistake that most parents make is like they give out their kids, and then after a certain period of time, they want their child back, or they try becoming more demanding. Like once they see the child is successful or the child is doing well, so they want to get back to the child, and that actually harms the child mentally. And that's when you find most adopted children, not all, being personalities of, not personalities, but being victims of multi-personality. I'm a totally different personality when I'm with you, and I'm a totally different personality when I'm with somebody else. So that really makes an impact. So one thing that people need to understand is once you've given your child out, please don't come back and start saying, this is my child. No, such kind of stuff. Parents who are adopting the kids, know the age bracket you're adopting your child from, okay? If the child is mature enough to know that he is going through adoption or she's going through adoption, fair enough. But if the child is young, an infant, make sure that you are, you inform that child in good time. Like maybe when he's 8 years old or 9 years old, I think it's a good time to inform the child who he is. Because one thing is for sure, if you will not inform the child, the world will. And your relatives are the very first people who will attack this child. Because those are the first people you're linking your child with. So you have to ensure that your child knows that he or she is adopted from your own mouth, because you know how you will talk to the child about adoption and how the child will perceive it. When somebody else will say, okay, like I was only 9 years old and I got to know I was adopted by a fellow schoolmate, a classmate, and he just said, Ulio Kotwa. How belong koyo familia. And I sat back, and that was like fire in my body. I started thinking, what is it? So knowing and telling the child that you're adopted is very important. Yeah.
All right, so of course this is the book Dropped to the World, Adopted by Fate. It's by Farhan Yusuf as well. You can also follow him. It is Farhan Yusufi, that is on Instagram.
Farhan Yusuf FY.
Yusuf FY. I said Yusuf just so the guys can get it.
Right.
And then Farhan You on Snapchat and Farhan Yusuf on Facebook. That's where you can get it. Where can they get the book?
You can get this book from Writers and Guild. We are currently we are having another launch coming up in Mombasa.
Okay.
We just had a launch in Nairobi at the Kenya National Library. So I am in the process of trying to speak to the libraries and trying to speak to relevant people who can market this book and keep it out. And I'm also on the procedure of having it put on Amazon, so that my friends, families and fans who are out of this country can read it. And I have really gotten a good response. This concept was mine, the book was mine, the whole idea was mine, but it's really been beautifully written by Lubna. As you see, she's a young writer coming up from Mombasa, and she's really a hard worker. So yeah, and I think if she was not there, I wouldn't have made it, like completing this book at this particular time. I also would like to acknowledge a few people like the Writers Guild, the team, a very good friend of mine, Nafisa, and also my parents, my mom specifically, my wife and my boys. They have played a major role. If they were not there, I don't think this book would have been complete.
Yeah.
And also a very big thanks to people who walked over me, because they're the ones who motivated me.
Right.
So there's this thing that in me that, once you demotivate me, I get more motivated. Then I want to do something, and I don't want to do it to prove you down, but I want to do it to show a better quality in me. And so I'm trying to kill the negativity with the positivity.
There you go. Kill the negativity with the positivity.
Yes.
That's Farhan Yusuf, and as well, we're gonna go ahead and post some of our pictures. You can get more details of how to get in touch with him, just in case you're just joining us right now. Right, the hashtag to use is Daybreak. Like I said, big thank you to Farhan for coming through. He lives in Kitale 6 months of the year, so you can find there. A farmer as well, by the way, so you can go ahead and check him out whenever you're in the great area of Kitale. We're gonna take a look at the traffic update right about now. Kimani, we've been trying to get a hold of Kimani for a while, but he's out there, and